So we have Casie Yuen here today, and first of all, Casie, let me congratulate you. So you just recently passed your master's degree thesis defense, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Relieved.
Relieved? Yeah, of course. So tell us a little bit about what your research topic is like, and I was really interested in the topic. So yeah, tell me.
It's about bond strength of masonry. So what that means is how well the brick unit, the brick itself, and how the mortar bond together.
Mm-hmm. So your research, what kind of what insights were you able to shed in the area? Like this is from my understanding, this has wide implication on constructions and the relevancy in the standards that they are currently using, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about that.
Well, there's something in the standards that uses something called the initial rate of absorption, which is short form IRA.
Mm-hmm.
And they use this property of the brick, the clay brick, and to determine whether the bond between the brick and the mortar is going to be good or not. And the standard says if the IRA equals 30, then we need to wet the brick so it doesn't absorb the water as fast. Mm-hmm. Because if it absorbs the water too fast, the bond is not as great. Mm-hmm. So my thesis was to determine whether this is valid or not.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the standard sets one thing, and then your thesis, the purpose of it is to figure out, well, the standard said this, and does it really make sense? So what did you find out at the end?
Well, first of all, I want to see if IRA is a good thing to use, mm-hmm. and it isn't. The variation was just the same type of brick for IRA. It's huge. Mm-hmm. So, and by variation, it's the different bricks in the same palette of bricks that they got in the oven, or something like that. How they make bricks is that they have the same kind of brick. Let's say a brown brick, for example, and they're gonna made of the same clay, same way of making it. There's two types, which is pressed and extruded. Pressed is you put the clay into a mold and you press on it to form a brick. Mm-hmm. And the other one is just have a big huge lump of clay all mixed together and then put it through a cutter. That's called extruded brick. And so let's say the same type of brick, let's say pressed brick, red, same clay type. And I found just in a whole pallet, usually about 500 individual bricks of the same type have a huge IRA difference.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Right, so even in the same pallet, the variation is so large, yeah, that that number doesn't make sense in the beginning. All right, and then the other part is tell us about the other part is saying, well, the standards say you need to wet the brick before you use it. Right. So I'm going to say, so I want to prove that that's not necessarily true. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, instead of wetting bricks, I'm just going to strictly use dry bricks. Mm-hmm. And I found that instead of wetting them, using dry bricks is still okay. And mm-hmm. also, given curing conditions, which means like how the masonry is dried, you can say, after construction. Mm-hmm. So in some sense, what the standards is telling, like if the construction company are following the standards to the letter, what they're doing is actually wasting a lot of time and doing things that is not necessary, right? In some sense, would that be a right characterization?
But it's not really waste of time. Mm-hmm. I've done some site visits.
Yeah, right.
I asked a mason how often he wets bricks.
Right,
Especially given in Calvin conditions.
Yeah, so in real world example,
hot and dry.
Right, what did you find?
hot and dry weather in the summer. Has he ever wet bricks?
Right, yeah.
And he's been a mason for, I don't know, 30 years, I think he said.
Yeah.
And he said he only wet bricks once.
Oh, really?
And
and
exactly
what
he said was,
right.
The red bricks give us the most trouble. But bricks, like, the absorption characteristic is not based on color, it's based on the clay. So, in a way, masons don't really have the knowledge of, like, determining whether the brick should be wetted or not.
Right.
They just determine by color, which is not
right,
valid.
which is not, because it could have been any color.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I see. So actually, if I hear you right, in the field that they are really not wetting it, and then in a sense the standards are like it just exists on paper, that they don't really actually use it much in the field. Would that be? I mean, I'm not asking you to give a definitive opinion, of course.
Manufacturers will say on instruction-wise,
right.
This is the highest sort of brick.
Right.
equals 40, let's say. Therefore, it's recommended to wet it. But whether the masons follow it is another story.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the manufacturer will probably say the right thing according to the standard, blah blah blah. But then how the mason actually do in the field is a different story, right? Oh, okay, yeah. So I think, how about this? In the long term, like, would you think it's actually better for the standard association to actually revisit this and maybe actually change the standard? So it's actually saying something meaningful and useful to the people.
Well, although my thesis didn't say it because it didn't come to my mind and I wasn't really confident, but in my defense, my committee also gave me suggestions and to actually make me more confident with my conclusions and recommendations.
That's good.
So after that, I'm going to also change a little bit on the thesis and make several recommendations. One is suggest to the standards saying a brick is not a brick. Right now, they define clay brick as just a fired clay brick.
Right.
It doesn't classify this clay, you do this. Extruded brick, you do this.
Right.
Just a brick is a brick.
Right. So a fundamental unit isn't really a brick. I mean, a brick there's so much variation.
Yeah. And second, there's so much variation in just a pallet of brick. The manufacturers usually just take 5 samples to test out their properties. That, of course, is also not correct.
Right.
I should say.
And then in insufficient number.
Yeah. So out of usually a pallet has about 500 bricks. So testing only 5, which is about 1% of the whole pallet, it doesn't give a proper number. Given how bricks are manufactured, especially when they're pushed into the oven, the kiln, the outside bricks will get more heat, and inside bricks will not get much heat. And then when they come out, the outside bricks get cooled faster, as for the inside bricks they don't. So that also causes variation. So in a pallet of bricks, instead of just testing 5, they should test 1 full pallet once in a while at least, and not just take 5 in one day and say that's it. Right. 10 years.
So measuring the oven or the kiln's effect on the whole pallet, and just to see if there's consistency between pallets.
Also, when it's suggested, when an architect say, I like this color, the preference is this brick, he should, well, not really the architect too, he and the engineer should also, when they look at the specifications that the manufacturer gives, they only look at that number. That's what I did at first.
Oh, okay.
To when I chose my bricks.
Right.
So instead of manufacturer just giving out that number only, they should also specify a variation.
Okay.
So if it was 20, say it's plus or minus 5 or something.
Right. Okay, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Casie. I mean, thanks for shedding some light in this very interesting subject. I mean, brick may seem like a very simple thing, but no, in some sense, when I look at it, there's so much variation, and it seems like there's little understanding, and more understanding needs to be actually added into this thing. Thanks a lot, Casie.